My name is Tommy Springfield, and I'm here to bring you the facts.
About time you pencil dick showed up.
Nothing but the facts.
You just tell us the truth. We swear you'll be fine.
I swear.
And if you've been here before, you know how I do. I think I'm something like a superhero. But the ghetto version, you know, Batman. But I'm Batman. I live in a Bat cave, and I drive a Batmobile, and I'm still that nigga. That part. So, today's story, there has been a verdict in the Tyre Nichols case. You know, all y'all been over there worried about how many dildos did he have, how much baby oil he had, and y'all over there all screaming about free thug and free gunner. We over here worried about shit that matters, and we're trying to figure out how these cops didn't all get found straight out guilty on all charges. I don't know. Mixed jury, this is the federal case. It is not the end of this story. They will be charged in the state for murder and a few other things. But I know y'all tired of me talking. Hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications every time a real ninja like me do these type of videos. And let's get to the video, folks. As always, I forget to tell you, I'm 420 friendly. If that offends you, I'm so sorry. I wish you the best on your YouTube journey, and thanks for the view this far.
We have some developing news to report. A jury has reached a verdict in the trial of 3 former Memphis police officers in the death of Tyre Nichols in 2023. The 29-year-old Nichols was brutally beaten during a traffic stop last January. He died from his injuries just a few days later. Prosecutors say the 5 officers involved in the incident did not provide life-saving aid to Nichols. The 3 officers convicted Thursday were found guilty on counts of witness tampering, and 1 was found guilty of civil rights violations, meaning the other 2 were acquitted on that. Nima Rahmani joins me now. He's a former federal prosecutor and president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers. Thanks so much for joining me. What's your response to the verdict, and can you help us understand these charges or these verdicts?
Well, thanks for having me. A surprising verdict, split verdict, but I would say it's essentially a defense verdict. The prosecution here in the Nichols family has to be very disappointing in some of the not guilty verdicts, particularly on the most serious counts. And I'm happy to go through them, but we're talking about 4 counts, the most serious of which are depriving Tyre Nichols of his civil rights, as well as failure to provide medical aid. Those are counts that carry potential life sentences in federal prison, and all 3 former police officers were acquitted of those most serious.
Now, how, as a jury, did you find that happened, that his civil rights wasn't violated and that he didn't get the needs the care he needed when people were fired? The ambulance workers, they were fired because they didn't render them care enough. So what type of jury did we have in America? What are these people that be sitting on the jury listening to? See, that's why they hide the faces of these people, so they don't have to be held accountable. If you are a neighbor of one of these juries, man, get these people photos out there, because we need to understand. We need to run up on them, question them, ask them, what the hell was you thinking about? If a man get drugged out of his car and get beat to death, how you didn't find his civil rights wasn't violated? Did we have all idiots on the jury? Must have. But anyways, who am I? I'm just a ninja from the hood. Nobody listens to me. Nobody watches my videos.
Counts, and I'm happy to go through them. We can start with Tadarrius Bean. He was found not guilty of depriving Nichols of his civil rights, failure to provide aid, and conspiring to do the same. And conspiracy, of course, is an unlawful agreement with 2 or more people. He was only found guilty of the final count, which is obstruction. That's essentially the cover-up. And even though that carries a potential 20-year sentence in federal prison, it's certainly less serious than the other counts. And Justin Smith, the 3rd officer who's shown there, he was found not guilty of those same 3 counts. Count 1 being the civil rights violation, count 2 being the failure to provide aid, count 3 being the conspiracy. He was also just convicted of one count, that fourth count of obstruction, the tampering, and so forth. Haley.
See, that's what I tell people. In America, we don't have a racism problem. We have a common courtesy problem. We have not enough thank yous, not enough please, may I? No, you go. I'm not going to cut you off. You go. You see a person in the grocery store and they got less items than you. Oh, no, you go. We need more of those. Thank you. Yes, please. Mr., sir, ma'am. We need more of that in America. And that's evident when a jury can watch a video of 5 cops beating a dude to death because he died 3 days later, and they say they didn't see his civil rights get violated. They say they didn't see a lot of things. Like, that's because we don't care about each other anymore in America. We care about symbols in America. Oh, this is the president. Oh, this is the governor. Oh, these people are police. Oh, this is the news. We got to listen to them. That's how America works. It doesn't work on common sense. It doesn't work on we are all humans. No, it works on that person is black, that person is white, that's a white female, that's a black female, that's a black man. We categorize everything now. But anyways, always enough of me talking.
Haley did receive more of a mixed verdict. He was found not guilty of the civil rights and failure to provide aid counts, but he was found guilty of a lesser included. That's a deprivation of rights, which did result in bodily injury. He was convicted of a conspiracy and of the obstruction charges as well. So he's certainly the most culpable of the 3, according to jurors at least, but still very disappointing when you had 2 of the other officers that pleaded guilty, testified against these 3. We've all seen the video footage. I mean, one of the most disturbing videos I have ever seen. But apparently, the jurors, they brought the defense argument that police officers were dealing with someone that was resisting, that was under the influence of drugs, that they didn't receive the proper training. I'm not saying I agree with the defense's argument, but clearly it did resonate with some of the jurors. And frankly, it just goes to show how difficult it is to convict police officers in this country.
Help me understand that idea that 2 pled guilty. So there were 2. Did they plead to a charge that then these officers ended up being acquitted of?
Yes, and we're talking about officers who are still facing state charges as well. So obviously there's Ben Crump. You have the family's attorney. I'm sure they're going to.
So, you have, in this case, 5 police officers. 2 officers pled guilty. 3 officers basically testified on the rest of the officers. Their supervisors came in and testified on these officers. But we have people on the jury who found a lot of these officers not guilty. So the dudes that actually took the guilty pleas are looking to be dumb because they're going to end up with more time than the guys who took it to trial. That's amazing. But this is the America we live in when the jury won't convict cops. And, you know, it's black on black crime. So it's easy, you know. I guess it's easy for the jury. They say the juries were split down the middle. I mean, it was like 14 people. It was 12 jurors and 2 alternates. They said it was split down the middle as far as women, men, and race. But I don't understand how they watched that video and came up with all of them not guilty verdicts, brother. It's amazing to me.
Going to be very disappointed with this verdict.
This has been a long journey for our family.
And in terms of an appeal, I mean, that would seem to be.
I'm a little curious on why he's trying to talk over this boy mother. Bruh, let her speak, but that's what it is. They don't give a fuck about black on black crime, but let them speak, brother.
Possibility, is there, do you think there's any grounds on that, or do you
convicted.
Does it kind of go back to your... Go ahead.
You know, the government, it's very difficult for them to appeal a not guilty verdict. There's very few circumstances where they can do that. Once the jury has spoken against the government, in this case against the prosecution, they're stuck with that verdict. Now, because of the dual sovereign doctrine, these officers may still face justice in state court. We've seen that in other racially motivated cases. Of course, the victim here was African American, so were the officers, but we've seen cases like that, Derek Chauvin and George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery's killers in Georgia.
I have another question. Where are the riots? Where's Black Lives Matter? They should be tearing up the town right now, because that's a dirty, dusty, terrible verdict, man. These cops wasn't found guilty on nothing serious. Yes, don't get fooled by the max. Oh, they're maximum 20 years, maximum life. These guys ain't committed no crimes in their life, so they're not going to get 20 years. They're not going to get life. Let's hope in the state trial for murder, we get a better jury, folks.
As well. So occasionally the feds and state prosecutors will prosecute cases simultaneously. It doesn't violate double jeopardy because they're dual sovereign. So I think maybe these officers will really face the justice that they deserve in state court, where they are facing murder charges.
On that civil rights charge, what would the standard have been that the officers were acquitted so it means the prosecution didn't meet that standard? But in terms of helping us understand why they would have been acquitted, what would the test have been that was necessary to get a conviction, and why do you think they didn't?
Well, it has to be a violation of a clearly established constitutional right. So in this case, it would be Nichols's right to be free from excessive force. And, you know, the question here was this someone who was fleeing? Was this someone who was resisting arrest? Did the officers go, outside their training? And there was a lot of discussion of this Scorpion unit there in Memphis, and did the officers act as vigilantes or a gang? And so I think that's something that, whether it was their training or lack thereof, that must have resonated with the jurors, because they apparently didn't find, with at least two of these officers, that there was any constitutional violation whatsoever. And it was just...
Think about that. 3 officers on trial. 3 of the officers out of 5 basically testify. Supervisors came in and testified. And on 2 of the officers, they found no civil rights violation. All these officers were throwing punches. They were throwing kicks. This is the problem in America. The people in America. The people in America somehow think you're on the side of the system. I'm here to tell you, you are not. It is us against them. You are not with them. They will step on you. They will use you. They will do whatever they need to do with you. But you ain't on their side, man. This is a bad
covering up after the fact. So it is a high burden to prove that violation. And obviously we know that jurors love police officers in this country, and ultimately prosecutors weren't able to get there.
If you're convicted of covering up, or at least partially covering up, isn't implicit in a cover-up that you think you're guilty of doing something for which you must take actions to cover up? And shouldn't that make it easier for a prosecutor?
Well, that's why I'm smiling, right? We often say the cover-up is worse than the crime. And, I've been prosecuting and handling cases for more than 20 years now, and sometimes you don't really understand these jury verdicts, especially when there's a split verdict.
Right, because some of them they were found guilty on covering up shit, but they wasn't found guilty on the shit they allegedly covered up. That shows you how dumb, I'm sorry, people in America are. You on the jury, you voted, they all were guilty on covering up something, but they're not found guilty on what they actually covered up. So what the fuck did you find them guilty on covering up if it wasn't whooping his ass? Yo, please, man, find these jurors, man. Put these jurors out. They need donkeys of the day. They need stupid asses of a lifetime. They need every dumb award and to be exposed and to be turned into memes. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying do them bodily harm, but they need to be held up as dumbasses.
How do jurors believe that there was no constitutional violation, but the officers covered something up? And apparently, that's what they came down to here. Now,
Didn't I just say that?
jury deliberation room, there's horse trading going on. Maybe there's folks that aren't willing to convict the police officers. Because let's not forget, in this country, you need a unanimous verdict beyond a reasonable doubt if you're the prosecution. Even if you have one holdout juror, that's going to result in a mistrial and a do-over. We have to start over. So sometimes when there's more serious counts, you'll see jurors agree to do not guilty, return not guilty verdicts on the more serious counts and convict on the lesser counts. So maybe that's what happened here. But I agree with you. Logically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're saying there's no constitutional violation, but they covered something up.
Is there any feeling in your mind that maybe that this was a stronger case than it was presented by the prosecutors? In other words, you've mentioned the fact that juries tend to support police officers in these kinds of instances. Could there be fault found in the prosecution in the way they carried out the case?
It's tough to criticize the prosecution in a case where there's so much video evidence. Here you have officers that turned off and removed their body cams, but notwithstanding that, there's that whole camera. And going back to the history of police brutality in this country, I grew up and I remember Rodney King was one of the few times that police officers were prosecuted. Of course, in that case, they were acquitted as well by the state. They were charged by the feds, and even only then, some of those officers were convicted. Others were acquitted. And we've seen more and more, whether it's George Floyd, the influence of video and how it's really changed the game in terms of prosecutions, and how for many, many years in this country, it was almost impossible to convict officers of murder, much less serious charges like manslaughter. But what I thought in this case, because there was so much video evidence, both in terms of the poll camera, in terms of the police officers, those that arrived, I thought this would be a relatively straightforward case for the U.S. Attorney's Office, and jurors would return a pretty quick guilty verdict. But apparently, I and other talking heads and legal analysts were wrong.
Nemo, if you'll hang out with me just for a second, the Nichols family spoke moments ago. Let's listen to what they said, and I might want to ask you about it, depending on what it is. Let's listen.
Just to let you know, dumbass, you talked over them. We could have listened to them speak live. But, you thought what you and him had was more important than what they said. And that's exactly why these verdicts are the way they are. Because y'all people didn't make it important. Y'all don't think it's important, stupid asses.
Stop. All of them have been convicted of something, and they're all going to jail. That's how I feel. This has been a long journey for our family. I'm actually in shock right now because I still can't believe all this stuff is going on. But
not for nothing, I'm going to just call it how I see it. Excuse me. Because I see who she got next to her. She got Ben Crump next to her. And Ben Crump told her, "Oh, baby, don't worry about it. We gonna get the check. We gonna get that check. We suing for $500 and something million, baby. And we got guilty verdicts, so don't worry about it." Bitch, I'm mad. I'm mad. That's what she should be saying. I'm mad. How can a jury find that they covered up something, but they're not guilty of nothing they was accused of covering up? That's what I would be saying in a report. But I get it. The old hustler that's on right next to everybody that's black that get whooped on. He right there. Somehow he right there to get that check. And that's what he done told her, because like I said, I would be mad. I would be upset if that was my child. But I see who next to her and I understand her thoughts.
We're happy that they all have been convicted and they have been arrested.
And Nope, nothing.
And that's very important that the jury found all of them in some way participated in a crime and that Tyre Nichols' death won't go unaccounted for. That is critical. We know that this is the federal case. It's different from the state case, but in the federal court, all 5 of them, 2 pled guilty, 3 of them have been found guilty of charges, and they all, as the judge articulated, have been taken into custody. So the family was very relieved that the killers of Tyre Nichols have been taken into custody and have been found guilty. Now you will hear from Attorney Tony Romanucci before any of the other family members may speak.
Thank you, everybody. Today was monumentous because you had 2 defendants who pled guilty to deprivation of rights under color of law. They testified in this courtroom. The remaining defendants have all been found guilty of 1 charge or more: obstruction, conspiracy, deprivation of rights causing bodily injury. This is justice.
Let's be clear here, right? They praising like they won, but we just heard the other dude say this is a fucking loss. But they thinking of the big check down the road, because once you get a couple guilty verdicts, the checks be easy to get. You know what I'm saying? The checks be that much easier, so they're thinking about the checks. But what I'm thinking about is the justice, because if this federal case was all that they had, these cops would be getting off with a slap on the wrist, because none of them committed crimes probably in their life. They're cops. So, therefore, they would fall under very low guidelines. One dude is only charged with covering up. You think they really gonna give you 20 years for covering up a crime when nobody was found guilty of a crime? Come on, stupid. But these are hustlers. They want everybody in the world to believe this is a just verdict and this is cool. But there is a state case. But like I said, if this was it, they got off. But luckily there's a state case. Let's hope we get some better juries on the state case. And let's hope these lawyers are far away from the state case.
For Tyre. This is a very high burden that this government had in order to prove 12 counts against all of these individuals, and they proved more than half of them.
That's right.
So we are grateful to the federal government. We're grateful to the jury for paying attention, His Honor for a clean trial, and now we look forward to justice. We look forward to the state case, the civil case, because what we know is these officers conspired.
That's right.
They made an agreement.
That's right.
They made an agreement to cause harm.
But what did they make an agreement to do? None of them was charged with actually whooping the nigga's ass. Like, so stop trying to shovel the community the bullshit. And because you know the community gonna believe the bullshit. What you should be saying is this is an unjust verdict. This is a terrible verdict. But you heard what he said in the civil case. That's the most important thing to all these lawyers. Because all this work is free. That civil case, oh, everybody gonna want a piece of that pie. But who am I? I'm from the hood. I'm just a black kid. I don't know anything.
And now they are in jail.
Yes.
They are.
Amen.
You're gonna hear from Mr. Wells in just a minute. It's very important that we thank Christian Clark and the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice for bringing these charges and zealously prosecuting this case. Now you will hear from Mr. Rodney Wells, the father of Tyre Nichols.
I just want to say for the family that we are all elated. We're all very, very happy that these guys have been put in jail. This is a long time coming.
Yes.
And justice for Tyre. So we're just so very proud that all of them are going to jail today.
Yes.
We cannot wait on the sentencing, so we'll know what their total time will be. But today was a very good day for our family.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you will hear from Judge Ernestine Doris.
Yes, it was a good day for our family. Yeah, we done secured at least some amount of money with these guilty verdicts. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are definitely gonna get a little bit of check. Some type of check. We can't wait for the verdict. You heard him. We can't wait for the verdict. But anyways, that's what happened. That's what's going on in the real world today. These officers just got a victory for beating a man to death. They don't want to tell you this. The family don't want to tell y'all that because they don't want nothing messing up their check. They don't want y'all coming here marching. They don't want y'all coming here begging for justice for what? We about to get a check now. The path to the check has been cleared. We got some type of guilty verdict. But if you like what I do over here, click that like, share, subscribe. Click the bell, click all, so you can get notifications every time I give you some of this real ninja covering up the real news. And if you one of these haters out here, cut the shit.